Okay, next we're going to remove the supercharger belt. So you're going to put a 1/2-inch drive into the tensioner. Make sure it goes all the way in. I have seen them break by having it not go all the way in. And then when we push down on this 1/2-inch drive, and you can use a breaker bar if you want, this one works fine. As soon as we push down and release tension on the belt, we'll slide the supercharger belt off these idlers. Next, we're going to remove what's called the pulley bridge. It's this piece in here that holds a bunch of the idlers and the tensioner. So we'll just do this a step at a time. Okay, so right on the very end of the pulley bridge, there's this 10mm nut that we're going to remove. So it's that one right there. It's just holding on the AC discharge hose. Okay, and so that holds this bracket on for the AC discharge line. And so you don't have to take it all the way off, just move it, because this bracket has a little half shape cut through it. So as long as you can slide it out from behind it, then you're good. Over here, you're going to remove this bolt that holds this intercooler line. That's a 10mm. Okay, next a 13mm bolt right there, the gold colored one. So it's not that one, it's that one right there. Okay, the next one is right here, and you can see it's kind of hard to get in on this one, and there's a stud, so you almost need a deep socket. You have to kind of wiggle around between the radiator line. I have a set of these and they work really well because it acts as a deep socket, because you can go all the way through the head of it and still get on there. So I'll put a link in the description of what kit this is if you want to get one. It'll be handy for you. But anyway, that's the next one right there, is right underneath this intercooler line. Okay, so that one was a nut. The stud stays in place, so you'll just remove the nut off of it. Okay, the next one is right here. And so this is an aftermarket idler, so we'll move this out of the way. It's just a 10mm bolt here first, and then we'll take that one out. Okay, and so for billet flow, they like the 1/2-inch was the size for that. It's pretty much 13mm, but 1/2-inch was just about right. Okay, so that lifts out of the way, and that was another one of our bolts right there then. Okay, next another 13mm nut right there. It's just going to come off of the stud. Okay, so just remove the nut, the stud stays in place. Okay, now we'll do a 13mm one right here on this bracket that's holding the power steering on, so just remove that nut. Okay, then there's another nut right there holding on another bracket for the power steering reservoir, so we'll just remove that one as well. Okay, that one's also a nut that comes off of a stud, and these bendy head wrenches also come in handy if you have one of these, 13mm. Okay, so below this idler there's one more. Kind of hard to see, but if I that's the last one, so you can see where it separates. So that's where that bolt was right there in the middle of the screen. Okay, we're just going to pull our power steering reservoir off of the stud here and then set it aside. Okay, so we took the power steering bracket off the top, and then you want to do it here on the bottom as well, and then just kind of pull it out of the way. Okay, so to help give us some room for the pulley bridge, because it comes up against the line that comes down off of this, what we did is we took a little screwdriver, we loosened this up and pulled this up out of the way, took out the two 8mm bolts that were right there, and then there's a 13mm one here on the side if you have an expansion tank like this. And so now we're just going to move this out of the way so that we can wiggle this around and give us a little more room. Now the bridge is free. We'll be able to pull it off of the studs and work it on out of here. Okay, it is pretty tight fit with the bridge here, so what you're going to want to do is pull it back and get it off of the studs. You're going to want to make sure you're putting the lines for the power steering around it. You're just having to work around it that way. And as I mentioned, we moved this so it was loose, which really helped a lot because this stud's really long. But if you can move that around, then you can get it off the stud. So now we're just gonna just pull it and walk it up out. Okay, so we pulled that pulley bridge out of there. You can keep the belt with the tensioner if you want. It doesn't like to come off of there or whatever. It's gonna go back on anyway. But just had to pull it on out of here and flip it around and get it out. Just be careful that you're not hitting any coolant lines.